Okay, we left off last time at Shabbos clothing, and it was bolded in red to remind us that we are going to continue with our summary of Siman Reish Samach Beis from this exact spot. Shabbos clothing. Torah relates that one should strive to have nice clothing for Shabbos. Ramal writes that one should get dressed immediately after he showers before Shabbos. This is why one should shower close to Shabbos, not 6 hours before Shabbos or a long time before Shabbos. In other words, there's the idea of showering closer to Shabbos, so therefore one immediately after the shower will put a Shabbos clothing on, as we learned in the Ramah. Shabbos Shuvah Nitmar Shabbos Rav Hartman specifies that Shabbos clothing should not be worn before Plaga Mincha. Sees my siman.com calendar for when that is. Shulchan Aruch Harav explains that one should wear his Shabbos clothing near the time of Shabbos in order that it will be recognizable that the clothing is being worn in honor of Shabbos. So that's why it should be worn closer to Shabbos, so it will be recognizable that it's being done the covered Shabbos. Furthermore, if someone puts his Shabbos clothing on too early before Shabbos, there is a concern that his clothing might get dirty before Shabbos. That's another reason why to make sure not to put the clothing on too early. Magen Avraham relates that it says in Ksavim that it is good not to wear any Shabbos clothing during the week. Accordingly, someone who wears his Shabbos clothing too early will be violating this halacha. Someone who is traveling to a faraway place and it's difficult for him to pack his Shabbos clothing may wear his Shabbos clothing. The truth is, as long as one wears his clothing Erev Shabbos, it is recognizable that it is being done in honor of Shabbos. Is similar to other Shabbos preparations, which may be done the entire day. If it is possible to do all preparations right before Shabbos, then they should be done then. However, if this is impossible, which many times is the case, then they may be done earlier in the day. In other words, to summarize this, is that it's pretty much straightforward, but there's an idea of wearing Shabbos clothing. You want to wear it close to Shabbos. If it's impossible not to wear it close to Shabbos, you can wear it as long as it's Erev Shabbos. It's fine. For example, you're traveling, so then that's fine. Why do we need special Shabbos clothing? The simple reason why we wear nice clothing on Shabbos is in order to honor Shabbos. However, Kolbo explains that Shabbos clothing reminds us to keep Shabbos properly and not violate Shabbos. Minchas Chein, Shalos and Chuvas, that's Rav Noach Alabam explains that the external clothing will help us internally change. The clothing will help us realize that Hashem is in control of everything. Okay, so I don't know. Shabbos are undergarments. Is there gonna be pajamas over here? Pajama section? I don't know, maybe it will. Maybe there won't be a pajama section. I don't think I incorporated it, but this is the idea of, according to this reasoning of the Kolbo right over here, so then one should have nice pajamas. Special pajamas, Shabbos clothing.
Trouble says the Shabbos clothing reminds us to keep Shabbos properly and not violate Shabbos.
Right. So the reason is because, as we learned, if a person wakes up in the middle of the night, so he might inadvertently flick a light switch or something. So therefore, the special Shabbos clothing will remind him not to do that. The Shabbos clothing will remind him not to do that, and therefore, that's why it's good to wear the special Shabbos clothing, so that he won't come to inadvertently violate Shabbos. This is why we said even if just one time in his life it will save him, it's worthwhile to wear the Shabbos clothing, and it will remind us not to violate Shabbos. Okay. When does one remove his Shabbos clothing? A good writes that one should wear his Shabbos clothing until after Havdalah. Torah's Chaim holds that immediately after Havdalah, one must remove his Shabbos clothing. This is what the Chazon Ish in this type of did. Chushani argued and said that one does not need to remove his clothing immediately after Shabbos. Silvashar Shavoda quotes that Rizal says that one should remove his Shabbos clothing until after Malava Malka. Kaf HaChaim rolls this way as well. Silvashar Shavoda explains that the suit is connected to Shabbos. Therefore, you keep the Shabbos clothing on during the suit with Malava Malka. Chuma Sedeshin didn't remove his clothing until he went to sleep. In other words, you could remove your Shabbos clothing whenever you want. You have who to rely on. Does one need Shabbos undergarments? Good question. The Vilna Gaon would change all of his clothing for Shabbos from feet until his head. According to Chujani, one does not need special clothing for undergarments. I think that's the minhag, not to change undergarment special Shabbos clothing. Does one need to wear Shabbos clothing if he is by himself for Shabbos? Yes. Mishnah Berurah quotes Kai Adam, who rules that even if he isn't in an area with other Jews on Shabbos, nevertheless he must wear Shabbos clothing, since the clothing isn't in honor of other people. Rather, it is for the honor of Shabbos. Can one wear Shabbos clothing during a weekday simcha? According to Oz V'Hadna Mishnah Berurah, one is allowed to wear Shabbos clothing for a mitzvah, such as a wedding or bris during the week. So, right, so that's according to some. You could wear your Shabbos clothing for a simcha. According to Chuchani, someone who does so decreases the concept of his Shabbos clothing. In other words, according to the Chuchani, you shouldn't. Nisha Shabbos explains that if wearing Shabbos clothing at a weekday simcha will increase one's relationship between him and his friend, aka the Baal Simcha, then the mitzvah of loving all Jews, Avas Yisrael, overrides the halachic issue of wearing Shabbos clothing during the week, and therefore, Rav Harfness defends the practice of those who wear Shabbos clothing to weekday simchas. Okay, does one need special Shabbos shoes? Major discussion. Contrary to common opinion, Kaf HaChaim says that Mikra Adin, one does not need to change his shoes for Shabbos. However, it is midas chasidus to change one's shoes. In other words, person, it's nice but unnecessary to have special shoes but Shabbos. He says that it is mitzvah chasidus as special Shabbos pajamas. Oh, here's the pajamas. According to Machzir Shekel, one does not need special Shabbos pajamas. The Shabbos points out that one should have special pajamas according to the reason that our special Shabbos clothing reminds us not to violate Shabbos. That's what we just said above. Someone having special Shabbos clothing could very likely save himself from accidentally violating Shabbos by turning on a light switch while he was still, quote, half asleep, end quote, after waking up. According to Chushanim, it's preferable to have special Shabbos shoes. One can also honor Shabbos by shining his shoes. Farfanis points out that everyone agrees that someone who strives to have special Shabbos shoes, which are nicer than his weekday shoes, will fulfill the mitzvah in a preferable way. So everyone agrees if you have special Shabbos shoes, that's great. But technically, you do not need to. Another point is, if one's Shabbos shoes are already shined from last week, then he does not need to polish them.
Shined is one end.
And shined?
Yeah, one end.
One end. Shkoyach. Was it spelled right over here?
Is there a shined over there? Oh, shining. Yeah, shining. Okay.
Shining. Is there another one? Preferable to have one's special Shabbos shoes, shining his shoes. Everyone agrees so much, which are nice. Okay. Shkoyach. Miscellaneous Shabbos clothing halachas. Good, the writes that even an Avil should change his clothing. Women must be careful to shower and put on their Shabbos clothing on time before Shabbos starts. Okay, so how much more do we have over here? Okay. Okay, Aguda writes that even an Avil should change his clothing. So we learned about that at length. Women must be careful to shower and put on their clothing on time before Shabbos starts. We saw major discussions on this, the Mishnah Berurah, the Aruch HaShulchan. They were very, they warned a lot about this, that women have to be very careful with this, to make sure that they don't violate Shabbos and do things too late. Here, footnote 37, Aruch HaShulchan, see there for more details. Mishnah Berurah also discusses this and warns that women must be very careful to shower and get dressed into Shabbos clothing before Shabbos begins. I want to just elaborate on that. It's not just a problem of, Shabbos starts at, I'm making up a time, 4:10, I'm going to get out of the shower at 4:08. Doesn't work that way, because you also have to factor in drying, which is a problem on Shabbos, the way that people typically dry themselves, and as well as brushing the hair, which all women do. So you have to factor in all of that. And then you have to factor in that they should be wearing their Shabbos clothing when they light Meir Shabbos. Now, if there was an extenuating circumstance and they didn't have time to put on their Shabbos clothing, better to light wearing their weekday clothing than light after this man, of course. But this is something that they have to be careful with. Birchei Yosef rules that one must wear Shabbos clothing when Shabbos begins at night. This is actually, we learned he has a hope shot over here, what Sif Gimel is coming to add on Sif base. And I could pull it up. Oh, that you'll appreciate this. Birchei Yosef, he puts this into his to explaining the Sifim over here. See, Sif Bey says in the beginning, you should strive to have nice Shabbos clothing. Sif Gimel, Yilbush begadim anoyim. What is this? Yilbush begadim anoyim. Wear very nice clothing. What's he adding? So rather, Birchei Yosef explains it's coming to say a chiddush that you should wear Shabbos clothing when it begins at night, even at night, not like those who don't. Magen Avraham writes that this is good to have that it is good to have another talis for Shabbos. Fine. There's a concept of wearing Shabbos clothing even if it will get ruined from the weather. Right there we saw. Okay, here's the whole story in the footnote. Otra Halachos footnote 28, quoting Shilos and Chuvas Siach Yitzchok Siman 133. Kuf Lamed Gimel. There was a story of a wealthy individual who had to travel to the adjacent town to get a minion. He wore expensive clothing. Sometimes it rained and his clothing got ruined. Someone told him that he was violating the prohibition of Baal Tashchis because his clothing was getting ruined. He responded that there certainly isn't a problem with Baal Tashchis because even if someone only does a mitzvah once, it is worthwhile. The proof is from the Kohen Gadol who wore very expensive clothing once, and Hanan, Mishael, and Azariah who wore nice clothing when they were getting burnt in the furnace to death. One should have nicer clothing for Yom Tov than Shabbos. One should wear clean clothing on Shabbos. If someone's clothing got dirty, then he should clean it before Shabbos. Another important point. This was highlighted to remind us that we learned it last time. So we don't need to do it again. Mincha Erev Shabbos. Nisha Shabbos relates it is preferable to wear Shabbos clothing. Mincha Erev Shabbos specifically if you are davening near the time of Shabbos. The reason for this is the holiness of Shabbos begins before Shabbos. Nisha Shabbos relates that someone who comes to Mincha late should daven Shemona Esrei first with the tzibur and then say Hodu afterwards. So this is talking about, especially if it's near the time of Shabbos. Key line. Okay, Avelus. We saw a lot of chuvas on this. Nishma Shabbos relates that an Avel during Shiva stops Avelus near the time of Shabbos. An Avel during Shiva stops Avelus near the time of Shabbos, right? The Lachot of Avelus does not stop at Chatzos, halachic midday of Shabbos. However, after Chatzos, an Avel is allowed to return to his house, if he wasn't sitting Shiva in his house, and start preparing for Shabbos. An Avel is not allowed to sit on a regular chair and put on his Shabbos clothing until near the time of Shabbos. By the way, going on the previous point, can't hear you.
Time Shabbos.
Say again?
What's considered near the time of Shabbos? What's considered near the time of Shabbos?
Oh, near the time of
after
Shabbos?
dark?
Like close to Shabbos, within a little bit of time. I don't know, half hour or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just going back to this point, okay? Someone who came late to Mincha, he should first say Shemona Esrei and then Hodu after. So footnote 46, Ashri should also be said afterwards. Sometimes you see people rolling in late to Mincha, and they're just saying Ashri. You're not supposed to. You do it after. It is important to learn Siman Kuf Test 109. Someone may not start Shemona Esrei if he knows that he will not be able to finish the Shemona Esrei before the Chazan gets to Kedusha and Chazar Shatz, right? That Siman we discussed, all the recordings of Rabbi.com with all the details that we learned that a person just can't start davening Shemona Esrei when he's late and say, oh, it's all good. 100% not. It does not work that way. So rather, he needs to be careful that Rather, he needs to be careful that his Shemona Esrei is done by the time they're up to certain areas in the Tefillah, right? So so I mean, we could open up some Kuf test right now, actually, but if you look at that Siman, you'll see he has to make sure that he's done with the Shemona Esrei before the Chazan gets to Kedusha, and there's also other parts that he has to partake in at the end of Shemona Tefillah, if I'm not mistaken, that bracha. Right before it would say the end of Shemona Esrei, if he's gonna miss Amen Yehesh Mirabo, Dam Yamim Avim Romain and Kaddish, there are parts that he's not allowed to miss. So the best idea, as we discussed, is that when he just comes late, so he davens along with the Chazan. That's the best idea to do. He davens along with the Chazan, and what that will do is it will enable him to kind of tap into a tefillah b'tzibor. He's still davening with the tzibor, and additionally, he will be able to say everything, so to say, because he's davening with the chazan, and he won't violate the prohibitions discussed over there. Okay. Obviously, of course, the person should always be coming on time. This hopefully is only hypothetical. Okay. Nishma Shabbos relates that an aval during Shiva should wear his Shabbos clothing on Shabbos. It is preferable for him to step on his freshly laundered and pressed clothing before he puts it on, or have someone else wear his clothing briefly and then put it on himself. Shouldn't be wearing clean clothing. Nishman Shabbos quotes Sefer Minhagi Amsterdam, which relates that after Lecha Dodi near Baruch Hu, the Avos shall come to shul. That I feel like is our minhag. Mr. Shabbos is also an aval changing his makom kavu and shul on Shabbos. It is not a problem of practicing avelus in public, since the aval isn't going to a set spot where all of the avelim sit. Furthermore, if he came to shul before Shabbos began, there isn't a problem of publicly practicing avelus. One doesn't need to change his makom kavu in his house. Okay, so this is a massive discussion that we learned when we were learning the tshuvas over there, and the idea is that nowadays we no longer have set areas, set spots where the avelim go, so therefore it would not be a problem of an avel changing his spot. It's not considered avelus b'farhesia, publicly practicing avelus on Shabbos.
Do we hold nowadays by us that an Avel can sit in his makam on Shabbos? Is it a stringency, or this is what everybody holds,
I don't think an avel sits in his spot.
even on Shabbos?
Yeah. Yeah. Right, and this is another good svar that a lot of times he's coming in from Mincha before Shabbos, so already he's sitting in a different spot, so it's not avelus before Hesya, which I think that idea is questionable. But I think nowadays that's a minhag, but I would have to look into it more and ask around. But I would think that they change even on Shabbos, but I'm not 100% sure. Kabbalah Shabbos, Nishra Shabbos relates to the Chachila. One should accept Shabbos, be Makabal Shabbos with the tzibur, the congregation. Therefore, someone who came late to shul, when the tzibur is accepting Shabbos, should daven with them, and then say the beginning of Kabbalah Shabbos after. So this is going to be more like right after Lecha Dodi, right? Mizmor Shir, Yom HaShabbos.
So you would say Kabbalah Shabbos after
Correct.
Tefillah B'Tzibur by Marav? After
If you
that?
can get in before Baruch Hu, you could get it there if you have time. Probably you won't have time, so you probably do it after, which we learned was a question because maybe those 6 capitals would correspond to the weekday
Right.
of days a week. You wouldn't do after, therefore the chiddush is you still do it after. Miscellaneous wrap up. Torah writes that one should rejoice when Shabbos comes, like he would greet a king. Kav Chaim writes that when one enters his house on Shabbos, he should say in a loud voice with happiness, "Good Shabbos," because we are like a chassan who is greeting a kala. Torah rules that one should have a lot of meat and wine according to his abilities, financial abilities. Whoever increasingly honors Shabbos with his body or clothing or by eating is praiseworthy. Mishnah Berurah quotes Zohar, who says that the Mekubalim warned against having a machlokes in the house on Shabbos, especially between spouses. Mishnah Berurah that rules that the custom is to only say Mizmor Shir before Baruch Hu when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, not the whole Kabbalah Shabbos. This idea over here, this line of not to have machlokes in the house on Shabbos, especially between spouses, also Erev Shabbos, especially Yetzer Hara that comes in, so we have to be careful. Okay, well, it was a big schos learning the siman. We had, I think, including this, 24 sessions, close to 25 sessions. We spent well over 10 hours altogether learning this one page of Mishnah Berurah, but I certainly think it was worthwhile in terms of the applicable halachas that come out of this is life-changing. Literally, I'll tell you personally, from a little bit of a soft, smushy idea, it definitely changed our Shabbos. So it was worth it for me, certainly, to spend time on this. We already ordered 2 tablecloths that we never had, new, nice white tablecloths. Now we put them on our table. We're in the process now. We're going to be ordering a custom-sized tablecloth for the 4-foot by 4-foot table I have in this farm room. Additionally, to cover that, we started covering our kitchen table with the tablecloth. I polished my shoes before Shabbos, which I haven't done in a very long time. This showed me the importance. What else changed that we did? I'm more careful Erev Shabbos, cleaning, sweeping the house to make sure everything is tidied up. I'm more careful that the table is set before Shabbos. My kids now are more involved in setting the table, and they like it. They know it's something that's done before Shabbos. They understand what it means to prepare a house now before Shabbos. It's not just about cooking food. It extends a lot beyond that. I mean, what else? I mean, this is mamish life changing now for me, my whole family. I'm interested to learn more about this. Plastic dishes, cutlery, and siman reish mem base. We already saw the comments on that. I mean, this is just this is a very important siman. That's all. I mean, that itself, what I just said, is already a tremendous amount. You know, so any questions or comments on this? On anything?
No questions? No, I don't, no.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense after you have 25 sessions learning something over 10 hours. There aren't really that many questions left that you come up with. So okay. Okay, so let's learn something else for the remaining 10 minutes.